Hello everyone, welcome to Achievers IAS classes. Let's begin our discussion on the current events of 25th June 2018. The first issue in news is an editorial regarding the United Nations State of Food Security and Nutrition report. The report states that the gains achieved on food security and better nutrition since the beginning of this century may be at risk because the reduction seen in the rate of undernourishment since the year 2000 has registered a worrying increase in the year 2016. Adding to this is the finding that deprivation is even greater among people who live in regions affected by conflict and extreme effects of climate change. Further, the report says that in spite of the child undernutrition rates continuing to drop, there is still 1 in 4 children who is affected by stunting, which is the value of height to age of the child. Although these averages do not reflect the disparities among regions, within countries, and between states, they represent a setback to all countries which are trying to meet the Sustainable Development Goal on ending hunger and achieving food security and improved nutrition. With respect to India, as we know, efforts have been made through progressive legislations like the National Food Security Act to improve access to food and good nutrition, and various states operate their own special nutrition schemes for women and children. In spite of such interventions, around 14.5% of the population suffers from undernourishment, according to the report, and at the national level, 53% of the women are anemic, as per the data of the Health Ministry. Further, institutions such as the state food commissions and the public distribution system have not made a big difference, as distributing nutritious food as a public health measure is still not a political imperative. In this regard, the recent report on nutritional deficiency should serve as an opportunity to evaluate the role of the PDS in bringing about dietary diversity for those relying on subsidized food in shaping household and nutritional security. Given the finding of the Niti Aayog that the families below the poverty line consume more cereals and less milk when compared to their richer counterparts, the goal should be complementing rice and wheat with more nutritious food items. On that note, let's move on to the next issue, which is regarding the recent notification of the Supreme Court of a new roster system. The new roster says that the bench headed by the Chief Justice of India will hear all public interest litigation petitions along with pleas on social justice, elections, habeas corpus, and contempt of court. Likewise, Justice Ranjan Gogoi will deal with labor laws, indirect taxes, personal law, and company law cases. On similar lines, benches will be constituted by the Supreme Court, headed by other judges, to look into other matters. As you are all aware, the four senior-most judges of the Supreme Court had expressed openly their displeasure over the allocation of cases by the Chief Justice of India, thereby raising serious questions over the integrity of the judicial process itself. In this context, the recent move of the Supreme Court will increase the transparency and thereby address some of the issues raised by the judges in the press meet. For further details on this issue, please go back and watch the monthly current affairs roundup for the month of February. The next issue in news is the investment of $200 million by the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank in the National Infrastructure and Investment Fund of India. According to the Finance Minister, nearly 25% of the total funds have been committed for the projects in India undertaken in both the government sector as well as the private sector. Given that India is the second largest shareholder in the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and is also the largest recipient of funds, this is a welcome move to address the deficiencies in the infrastructure sector. On that note, let's move on to the next issue, which is regarding the proposed water aerodrome by the Airports Authority of India for starting amphibious aircraft operations in the Chilika Lake of Odisha. In this regard, several issues have been raised because for the 6 months between October and March, the Chilika Lake turns into a temporary habitat for lakhs of migratory and residential birds, and if an aircraft flies at a low height, there is a chance of the birds getting hit, thereby endangering the life of both the bird population as well as the safety of the passengers on the amphibious aircraft. Further, the noise pollution generated by close to 10,000 boats has already taken a toll on the endangered Irrawaddy dolphins in the lake, and the amphibious aircraft operation could further add to the troubles. A point to be noted here is the Chilika Lake is the single largest habitat for the endangered Irrawaddy dolphins, and as many as 155 of these endangered species were spotted in the recent past. Further, the recent accident where a boat capsized in the Chilika Lake, killing many of its occupants, has to be kept in mind before allowing any further activities in this important wetland. On that note, let's move on to the next issue, which is an editorial on the recent agreement among the members of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, that is the OPEC, to increase its daily output to address the problem of rising crude oil prices. The official statement released by the group, however, has failed to mention any solid numbers regarding the planned increase in production, and it just stated that the OPEC countries would strive to adjust production levels in order to conform to the terms of the production cut deal reached in 2016. The OPEC members had agreed in 2016 to a historic deal to cut crude oil production in order to address the excess supply and thereby raise the price of oil. But unexpected outages in countries such as Venezuela, Libya to overshoot their production cut targets. Currently, there is considerable pressure on Saudi Arabia, which is the de facto leader of the OPEC, both from the developing countries as well as the developed countries like the US, to bring down rising oil prices, which could push the global economy under stress. The current deal to increase oil production might favor Saudi Arabia and result in marginal loss to countries like Iran, which lack the capacity to ramp up production, which, as you know, are the two hegemonic powers of the West Asian region. It remains to be seen if the politics surrounding the crude oil prices will bring a stable reduction in the global oil prices. The next issue in news is regarding the decision of the Union government to lower the limits on export of certain essential commodities such as potatoes, onions, and eggs to Maldives, which could result in possible food shortages in the island nation. Although some see this as a move as a counter to some of the recent decisions of the Maldivian government, like the granting of visas to Indian workers, the government has confirmed that it is not so and is based on a new method of calculation on the average of the last 3 years. The next issue in news is regarding the Coordinated Patrol Exercise or CORPAT, which the Indian Navy regularly conducts with Indonesia, Myanmar, and Thailand. The issue is in news because India and Bangladesh have recently agreed to conduct the corporate exercise between the two navies, and it reflects the Indian Navy's expanding assistance role to the countries in the region through material support, training, and the surveillance of the exclusive economic zone. The final issue in news today is regarding the fears expressed over the National Registry of Citizens of Assam. There is widespread fear among the local population whose name has not figured in the first draft of the NRC, and if they fail to be included in the final draft, there is speculation that up to 4 million people, who are mostly Bengali Hindus and Muslims, would become stateless. We'll further look into this issue in the coming days, but for now, I'm wrapping up today's news analysis. Do share this content if you like it. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.